It started like any other Thursday night, which in hindsight might be the most haunting part of all this. There was nothing dramatic, no fight, no cold shoulder, no sense of foreshadowing that something was about to shift. If anything, it was mundane, predictable. That kind of false calm that only makes what follows feel more like betrayal. Lauren had this ritual carved into the week with the kind of regularity you could set a clock to. Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday nights, she jogged. Rain, snow, whatever, unless there was ice on the ground, she was out there, usually gone for about 45 minutes. I never questioned it. I used to think it was one of the things I admired most about her, the discipline, the consistency. She said running helped her clear her head. That she came home feeling like a better version of herself. It seemed like a healthy outlet. I encouraged it. Hell, sometimes I bragged about it to my coworkers like I was lucky to have a partner who took care of herself so well. That night she came down the stairs in her usual windbreaker, navy blue with reflective stripes. Her hair was pulled back, shoes already laced. She gave me a smile, tossed her earbuds around her neck, and reached for the small black gym bag she always took, though for the life of me I've never understood why she needed a bag to go for a run around the block. I'd asked once. She said she liked to have a water bottle, a portable charger, and a dry shirt to change into afterward. Made sense. At the time. I was half watching a game on mute, half checking an email when she walked over and kissed me on the forehead. Just a quick goodbye, something warm and familiar. But as she leaned in, her phone lit up in her hand. I wouldn't have noticed normally. I'm not the jealous type. I wasn't looking for anything. But it just happened. A message flashed across the screen. Dylan, you taste like Saturday night? That was it. That's all I saw. 7 words. 7 goddamn words that cracked something in my chest. At first, I didn't even react. I just blinked, like maybe I misread it. Or it was part of a meme, some joke I wasn't in on. Maybe a weird autocorrect. My brain scrambled to make it innocent, to patch over the immediate discomfort with logic. But then Lauren was already halfway to the door, earbuds in, her bag slung over her shoulder like nothing had happened. She didn't even seem to notice that I'd gone still. That something in me had locked up. The door closed behind her, and I just sat there for a while, staring at the spot where she'd stood. I didn't go looking through her phone. I didn't call her or follow her or do anything impulsive. Instead, I just sat on the couch with the TV flickering in the background and my stomach twisted into knots. That name, Dylan, meant nothing to me. I couldn't place it. She'd never mentioned a Dylan at work or in any of her stories about the gym. I scrolled through the contacts we shared in our mutual friend group. Nothing. Not one Dylan. About 35 minutes later, she walked back in, cheeks flushed, earbuds dangling again. Hey, she said, brushing past me into the kitchen. You want tea? I watched her move, watched her unzip her bag and toss her jacket over the chair like she always did. Everything looked the same. Felt the same. But it wasn't. I said yes to the tea, mostly so I wouldn't have to get up and break the illusion just yet. We sat in the living room sipping from our mugs and I finally said, casually, maybe too casually, hey, who's Dylan? She froze for the smallest second. Not enough that someone else might have noticed. But I noticed. Then she laughed. Loud. Too loud. Oh my God, she said, waving a hand like she was brushing off a fly. You saw that? That's from a group chat in the running club. Dylan's this guy who joined last month. Super weird sense of humor. He's always sending these out-of-context pickup lines as jokes. Like, one time he dared people to text random food compliments. Something like, you taste like Saturday night, was part of that. Stupid, right? She looked at me, eyes wide, like she was daring me to challenge her. I nodded slowly. Weird sense of humor. Totally, she agreed, pulling her phone out of her bag. I'll show you, but the chat's so dumb. You'll roll your eyes? She unlocked it, thumbed through her messages, and then with the most casual flourish I'd ever seen, she deleted the whole thread. Just like that. See, she said, dropping her phone on the coffee table face down. Gone. Not worth keeping. She smiled. I didn't. I sipped my tea and said nothing. I didn't want to escalate it. I didn't want to sound like some insecure boyfriend who couldn't handle a joke. And maybe that's what it was. Maybe it really was a stupid dare in a dumb group chat. But the tone of that message, that wasn't a joke. That wasn't some silly game. It read like something whispered into someone's ear in a dark corner of a bar. The phrase kept repeating in my head. Over and over. You taste like Saturday night. I lay in bed that night with her breathing slow and even beside me. I stared at the ceiling, eyes wide open, pulse in my throat. My gut told me I'd just seen the start of something. That message wasn't a coincidence. And her reaction? It was too smooth. Too rehearsed. She didn't act like someone caught off guard. She acted like someone who knew exactly how to neutralize suspicion. With a smile. With a laugh. With practiced misdirection. The worst part was I wanted to believe her. I didn't want to be that guy. The one who reads into everything. Who lets his imagination run wild. Who starts fights over nothing. So I told myself to let it go. Told myself it was just a joke from a weird guy in a group she barely paid attention to. That the deletion didn't mean anything. That it was just her way of saving me the awkwardness of seeing more dumb texts. But deep down, I knew. I knew that moment wasn't about a message. It was about a fracture, a quiet little crack that would slowly spread through everything if I let it go untreated. And the worst part? I did let it go. At least for a while. I turned off the lamp that night and closed my eyes. Lauren shifted in her sleep, her arm brushing mine, and I flinched like her skin was made of static. The next morning, she kissed me on the cheek like usual, asked if I wanted eggs or cereal. I said cereal. She poured it, humming to herself, and everything felt normal again. But that message lived in my head like a splinter. Invisible. Irritating. And always there. I didn't say anything the next day. Or the day after that. I acted normal, maybe a little quieter than usual, but I don't think she noticed. Lauren was always good at missing the quiet things. Subtle tension wasn't her specialty. She'd rather have an obvious fight than navigate silence. But even as I went through the motions, answering work emails, making small talk at lunch, folding laundry, I felt the shift. Once a seed of doubt takes root, it doesn't stay small. It grows. It twists things. And suddenly everything Lauren did felt like a clue. Like how, for example, she kept jogging on schedule, but I started noticing the difference. Her gym bag always looked the same when she left, stuffed and zipped, but when she came back, it wasn't like it used to be. Her change of clothes looked untouched. The water bottle still full. Once I picked up her shirt from the bag when she was upstairs and it was still perfectly folded. Like it had never been worn. She used to come home drenched in sweat, hair sticking to her forehead, breathless. Lately, she barely looked flushed. Then there was the running app. We'd linked our profiles when we first got into fitness together, a cute couples thing. I could see her routes, her pace, how far she ran, what times. It used to be a little window into her world. But I checked it that weekend and suddenly her data was vague. No timestamps. No routes, just a couple of general locations marked as completed runs. Like she had started runs and never finished them. Or like she didn't want me to see where she really was. I stared at one entry for a long time. It said she ran 4.2 miles in a custom zone. That was new. I didn't even know the app had that setting. I asked her about it casually. Hey, I noticed your running data isn't showing up the same. Did the app update or something? She didn't look up from her phone. Oh yeah, they rolled out a new privacy setting. Something about not sharing exact locations unless you opt in again. I must have missed the email. Reasonable. Maybe even true. But it was the way she said it, too quick, too clean. Like she already had the explanation chambered and ready to go. After that, I started paying closer attention. Not in a paranoid way, not yet, but in that hyper-aware way you get when you feel like you're walking blindfolded into traffic. I noticed she'd started turning her phone face down every time she set it down. She never used to do that. She used to leave it on the kitchen counter while she showered or cooked or talked on the phone with her mom. But now, it was always with her. Bathroom, bedroom, basement, laundry. Didn't matter. And one night, as we sat down for dinner, I heard a vibration. Just once. She didn't even flinch. But I saw the screen light up and dim again like it had a life of its own. When I reached for the salt across the table, I caught a glimpse of the screen before it faded. No name. Just a number. No preview. Just the word delivered. I didn't ask about it. I just made a note. I started making a lot of mental notes. Wednesday came and so did the next shift. She texted me around 4:15, said she had to stay late at work for a client presentation. It wasn't unusual, she was in finance and sometimes the international accounts ran on strange hours. But something about her wording stuck with me. We're onboarding a foreign client. Might be a late one. Don't wait up if I get stuck here. I stared at the message for a long time. If I get stuck here. Not, I'll be late or don't worry if I'm home late. It was oddly passive. Like she was distancing herself from the delay before it even happened. I replied, all good. Need me to bring you dinner later? She answered 6 minutes later. Nah, we're getting catered. Thai, I think. Okay, fair. But later that night, I walked into the kitchen and saw our joint account dashboard open on her tablet. I wasn't snooping. It was right there on the screen. I tapped the display to wake it, and there it was. A charge from a boutique hotel across town. Time-stamped at 6:37 p.m. I stared at it, waiting for the explanation to pop into my head. Business meeting? Unlikely. The firm had conference rooms. Hell, she even used to complain about how stuffy they were. Dinner with a client? Why at a hotel? And why on our joint card? I took a screensh *T. My fingers trembled just slightly, but I caught it clean. When she got home around 9 o'clock, I tried to read her expression. She was smiling, a little too bright. Her eyeliner looked like it had been reapplied. She said something about the Thai food being mediocre and launched into a story about a guy at the office who'd mispronounced pad ki mao. I watched her talk, nodding when appropriate, but my mind was elsewhere. There was also her shampoo. Sounds ridiculous, but I know how she smells. Lauren's shampoo has this soft, clean, floral scent, like rosemary and citrus. It's been the same brand for years. I love that scent. But the past few times she got back from running, I started picking up something else. Something that wasn't hers. It was faint, but it clashed. A woodsy, musky cologne. And it wasn't mine. The first time I caught it, I thought maybe she'd walked past someone wearing it. Maybe at work. Or the gym. Or the street. But it kept happening. Subtle. Lingering. I stopped mentioning her jogs. I stopped asking about her runs. I stopped pretending I wasn't aware. Instead, I started listening to how she talked. Everything was overly detailed now. I'd ask, "How was your run?" And she'd give me a whole monologue. Oh, I took the east route down Jefferson, but halfway through, I realized I forgot to start the timer. So I doubled back, and then my playlist glitched, so I just played that old Rihanna album and too much information. Too rehearsed. No one talks like that unless they're trying to fill the space, trying to control the narrative. She was covering holes I hadn't even asked about. One night, she was brushing her teeth and I noticed her phone charging on the nightstand. Normally, I wouldn't dare, but something inside me, it wasn't curiosity, it was survival, told me to look. I picked it up, tapped the screen. Fingerprint lock. A new one. I'd known the password since we started dating. I'd known all her codes. Suddenly, it was locked in a way I couldn't access, and I wasn't even registered as a fingerprint. When she came back into the room, I asked, "Hey, did you change your lock screen?" She froze for just a second, again just long enough for me to notice. Then she smiled. "Oh yeah, I set up fingerprint. Just easier for the gym and work apps. I'll add you later." She never did. I didn't push it. I just nodded and rolled over in bed, pretending I was tired. But inside, I was wide awake. The unease was becoming a rhythm. A background hum in my life I couldn't turn off. Maybe a part of me hoped I was wrong. Maybe I still believed there could be an explanation that made sense. Something embarrassing, maybe, but innocent. Maybe she was planning a surprise for our anniversary. Maybe she was helping a friend through something. Maybe, but I didn't believe that. Not anymore. Not after the gym clothes that never got used. Not after the silent phone and the locked screen and the scent that wasn't mine. Not after the boutique hotel she once told me felt cheap and depressing, but somehow had her name attached to a charge at dinner time on a Wednesday. Something was happening. Something had already happened. I just hadn't caught it yet. The decision to find out for sure didn't come from rage. It came from exhaustion. I was tired of watching shadows move on the wall, wondering which ones were real. Tired of second-guessing every sentence Lauren said, every smile, every late meeting and sudden jog. I couldn't keep living in that half-reality where nothing was true until proven false. I needed to know. For my own sanity, I needed to rip the mask off and see what was underneath, no matter how ugly it was. So I made a plan. Started simple. I took a personal day from work. Told my boss I had a dental emergency. He barely looked up from his computer when he told me to feel better. I left the office, changed clothes in my car, and put on a cheap delivery uniform I borrowed from my cousin Evan. He drives for a local courier company. Baseball cap, wrinkled jacket, even an empty food bag in hand. Nothing fancy. Just enough to make me look invisible. I pulled up to Lauren's office building around 11:30 a.m. just before lunch. Her company had floor-to-ceiling windows, that sleek, modern style with frosted glass and matte steel everywhere. I'd only been there once years ago when they hosted a partner's mixer. I remembered the lobby quiet, cold, smelled faintly like printer ink and peppermint oil. Still did. I walked past the security desk without hesitation, giving a lazy nod to the receptionist. She barely glanced at me. I moved down the hallway and turned left toward the conference wing. My hands were shaking. My stomach felt like a fist. But I kept walking. Her assistant, Jen, I think her name was sitting at her desk, chewing on a pen cap and scrolling through her phone. She looked up, saw the food bag, and pointed casually to a closed door without a word. Thanks, I muttered, keeping my eyes low. The blinds on the door were half shut, angled just enough to block a direct view but not enough to hide everything. I stepped closer, pretending to read a paper clip to the bag. Through the slats, I saw her. Lauren. Sitting at a long table. Leaning slightly forward. Laughing. Across from her sat a man I didn't recognize. Brown hair, button-down shirt rolled at the sleeves, a smile that looked too comfortable. He leaned in while she talked, like he already knew the punchline. Her hand was resting lightly, too lightly, on his thigh. I stopped breathing. I don't know how long I stood there, but time went liquid. I couldn't look away. She was glowing. Not the kind of polite, office-friendly glowing. The kind of glow someone wears when they think no one's watching. And she thought no one was. He said something and she stood, brushing down her blouse. He followed and they walked out of frame toward the back corner of the room. There was a divider wall, a half partition that blocked them from view. They were gone for maybe 15 seconds. When they reappeared, her blouse was slightly untucked. Her lipstick was faintly smudged at the corner of her mouth. His belt looked twisted like it had been tugged, adjusted in a hurry. My fingers dug into the side of the food bag until it crumpled. I didn't go inside. I didn't bang on the door or confront her or make a scene. I couldn't. Not because I was scared, but because something deeper than anger had settled inside me. Something still and cold. I turned, walked back down the hallway, and left the bag on her desk like nothing happened. I drove home in silence. That night, she walked in around 7 o'clock. Said her meeting had run long. Complained about someone's presentation taking too many slides. Made a joke about office pizza being made of cardboard. I nodded. She poured herself a glass of wine, kicked off her heels, and settled in like it was any other Thursday. I watched her from across the room, my face blank, heart of stone. I didn't ask questions. I didn't mention the bag. I didn't bring up the man. I just listened, waited. She talked for 10 minutes straight about strategy reviews, about the new client from Toronto, about a coworker who printed on the wrong tray again. Not one mention of the man from the conference room. Not one mention of her smile, her touch, her 15 seconds behind that divider wall. I went to bed before her. I stared at the ceiling again. Same position as the week before. Same pounding pulse in my ears. Only this time the doubt was gone. I had seen it. It was real. The only question now was, how far did it go? The next morning I started tracking back. I opened our shared calendar, the one we both kept updated for years. Work events, birthdays, dinner reservations. I compared her meeting times with her text history. Looked at her gym routes versus our credit card statements. A couple of things jumped out almost immediately. The boutique hotel? It came up more than once. In fact, she'd been there 3 times in the past 6 weeks. One charge on a Wednesday, another on a Friday, and one on a Saturday afternoon. Twice, the timestamps lined up with days she claimed to have been stuck at the office. One of those days, she even sent me a picture of her desk with a coffee cup and a spreadsheet on her monitor. But when I looked closer at the photo, I noticed the time on her computer's menu bar. 3:12 p.m. The hotel charge? 3:47 p.m. She'd sent the photo ahead of time. Staged it. Just in case. My hands were shaking again. Not with shock, but with clarity. This wasn't a one-time slip. This wasn't a heat-of-the-moment mistake. This was structure. Planning. Layers. Deception calculated to the minute. I went further. I checked the Bluetooth history on our shared tablet. Lauren had synced a new set of AirPods 2 months ago, ones I hadn't seen. Named T's Pods. T. Tyler? I didn't even know yet, but my brain started assigning him a name. Tyler. A placeholder for the man behind the slats. The one who made her laugh like that. I went back to her old emails. We shared cloud access through a family plan. She didn't realize that every deleted folder could still be recovered if you knew where to look. And I knew. In one of the recoverable folders, I found emails forwarded from her work account to her personal inbox. Hotel confirmations. Dinner reservations. Car service receipts. One dinner had a reservation for 2 under the name Tyler James. There it was. My placeholder had a real name now. Tyler. Tyler James. Finance consulting. A quick LinkedIn search confirmed it. He worked 2 floors above Lauren in the same building. That's how they met. There were more details. More messages. Some were mundane, like a shared Spotify playlist. Others were not. One subject line read, "Still thinking about Tuesday night? That thing you said, damn?" Another, "I can still taste you. Is that weird?" I stared at that one for a long time. I didn't open them all. I couldn't. Not yet. Not without bracing. Instead, I copied them. Archived every message, screenshot *T every calendar conflict, traced every charge I could. I wasn't just trying to prove she cheated. I was building a map, an anatomy of betrayal. I needed to see the skeleton beneath the skin. Because someday soon I would lay it all out in front of her. Calmly. Methodically. And when I did, there'd be no room for denial. Only truth. And the silence that follows when someone realizes they've run out of lies. It's strange how easy it is to become someone else when you decide to stop pretending. I stopped being her husband in any real sense the moment I saw her with Tyler behind that partition. After that, I wasn't Mark, the guy who folded her laundry and picked up oat milk on his way home. I was someone colder. Focused. Strategic. And God help me, I was good at it. While Lauren carried on like nothing had changed, still humming in the mornings, still asking if I wanted garlic or no garlic in the pasta, I was already deep into building my case. Quietly. Patiently. Meticulously. Every smile she gave me, every casual brush of her hand against mine, I met with stillness. Not coldness. Just distance. She thought the storm had passed. But I was the one writing the weather report. The first thing I did was back up her phone. It was easier than I expected. One night while she showered, I plugged it into my laptop under the pretense of checking something on the shared cloud. Her phone autosynced without hesitation. Messages, photos, notes, voice memos, everything. The key was not looking for the dramatic stuff. The real story lived in the mundane. In the patterns. She and Tyler hadn't just exchanged messages. They'd built a rhythm. A routine. Morning hellos. Midday complaints about meetings. Evening selfies, her bare face after a shower, him holding a glass of wine. They had pet names. Inside jokes. They even coordinated outfits sometimes, like they were playing house in the shadows of real life. One text from her to him hit like a brick. He asked if I wanted pasta. I smiled and said yes. You'd laugh at how clueless he is. That was me. The clueless one. Every message I copied. Every photo. Every voice memo. One night she recorded a note to herself while driving saying, "I can't keep this up much longer. I hate lying to him, but I don't know how to end it without wrecking everything." That made me pause. Not because it showed guilt, but because it showed calculation. She wasn't sorry about what she was doing. She was sorry she hadn't found a cleaner exit. I started cross-referencing her calendar with our joint bank statements. Found the nights she claimed to be working late and matched them to Uber receipts, restaurant charges, movie ticket stubs. None of them lined up with work. They lined up with Tyler. She once told me she was in a client dinner until 10 p.m. I found a receipt timestamped 9:04 for a bottle of wine at a small bar in a different part of town. The signature on the receipt matched the style of her loops and slashes. I compared it to her old birthday card for confirmation. Then I planted a tracking tag under her car's bumper. It was tiny. Smaller than a pack of gum. Synced to my phone. And she never noticed. I told her I'd taken her car in for a tire rotation, which I actually did because I needed her to believe everything was normal. Over the next 2 weeks, I logged her movements. She never once went to the gym on the nights she said she was running. Instead, she made 3 trips to that same boutique hotel. Once she stopped by a florist first. Twice she went to a cafe near Tyler's apartment, stayed parked for over 2 hours and then drove home, all smiles and perfume. I even captured her voice on a speakerphone call when I left my watch charging in the kitchen while she talked to him. She didn't notice it was paired via Bluetooth. I sat in the garage with my phone and recorded it. She said, "He's still acting normal. Part of me wonders if he knows." Tyler replied, "Even if he did, what would he do?" She laughed. That laugh stuck with me. It wasn't cruel. It was casual. Like the sound you make when someone brings up a sitcom you used to love. Like I wasn't even part of the story anymore. I started organizing everything into folders, digital and physical. Labeled, timestamped, cross-referenced. A screenshot *T of her message about skipping a meeting. Paired with the calendar showing no such meeting existed. Paired with a location ping from the tracking tag at Tyler's apartment. It was more than infidelity now. It was a blueprint of deceit. She wasn't just lying to me. She was living a double life. Down to the logistics. Tyler wasn't even impressive. I found his LinkedIn. Generic finance consultant. Motivational quotes in his bio. One photo of him holding a fish. I wanted to hate him, and I did, but more than that, I felt insulted. This was the guy who dismantled our life? I kept my distance. I kept playing my role. Let her believe she still had me fooled. The only visible change was that I stopped initiating affection. I stopped asking about her day. I let her talk, let her fill the space with small lies and fake smiles. Sometimes I'd watch her from across the table and think, you have no idea what's coming. Because I wasn't looking for a messy confrontation. I didn't want yelling or drama. I wanted clarity. I wanted the truth laid bare so cleanly that even she couldn't gaslight her way out of it. I wanted her to see what I saw, the full scope of what she'd done. And then I'd decide what to do with it. That moment was getting closer. One night, she stood in the kitchen, twirling pasta on her fork, and asked, "Do you ever think about taking a weekend trip? Just us?" I looked up. I said, "Sure. That sounds nice." And I meant it. Because by the time that weekend came around, I would have everything I needed. The morning I chose to confront her, the sun rose like any other, clean light stretching over our kitchen counters, dust particles swirling in the air like nothing was wrong. But everything was wrong. I had spent 2 weeks building a case tighter than any courtroom file. And I wasn't going to yell. I wasn't going to beg. I was going to show her what I'd found, every text, every lie, every timestamp, and I was going to let her face it. I waited until Saturday morning. She always slept in a little, made herself a smoothie, sat on the couch with her legs curled under her like a teenager. She liked slow Saturdays. I used to like them too. But now they felt like a stage. One final, quiet performance before the curtain fell. She was in the kitchen when I brought out the laptop. "Hey babe," she said, back to me, pouring oat milk over frozen berries. "Want to split this?" "Sure," I said. I didn't look up from the screen. I let her finish. I let her sit. I let her take the first sip. Then I turned the laptop toward her. She looked down, her smile faltering, and saw the open folder labeled Tyler. For a second, she didn't speak. She just stared at the screen, first at the folder title, then at the screen *TS inside. I didn't say a word. I let the silence work. "What is this?" she asked, her voice small. "You know what it is." Her fingers hovered over the trackpad. She clicked. The first screen *T opened. A text from Tyler, timestamped 11:02 p.m. 3 Thursdays ago. "Still thinking about the way you tasted. Can't wait for next time." She blinked. Her face changed, tightened. Click. Another screen *T, her reply. "Me too. I dreamt about it." Mark still clueless. Click. A photo, her legs on a hotel bed. The comforter, the sheets, unmistakably the boutique hotel she'd called cheap and depressing when we passed it once a year ago. She didn't deny it. She didn't cry. She didn't even reach for my hand. Instead, she said, "Why did you go through my phone?" I blinked once. Slow. "That's your first question?" She didn't answer. I clicked to the next file. A GPS map pulled from the tracker under her car. Her route on a Friday night, from our driveway to Tyler's apartment. Parked for 2 hours. Then back. I pulled up the bank record. A wine bar charge. Matched to the timestamp. Matched to a selfie of her and Tyler toasting. She stared at it. At all of it. Her face was a frozen lake. Then she exhaled and leaned back into the couch. "I don't even know where to start," she said finally. "Start with the truth." She looked down at her smoothie. Didn't sip it. Didn't say anything for a while. Just held the cup in her hands like it might melt. "You've been distant," she said. "For a while." I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "So this is my fault?" "I'm not blaming you," she said quickly. I want you to understand that this didn't happen in a vacuum." "I do understand," I said, voice low. "I understand perfectly. I was here. Every day. I was present. I asked you how your day was. I made you tea when you were sick. I picked you up from the airport when your flight got delayed. I was here, Lauren." She flinched at that. "You think because I wasn't texting you poems during lunch that I wasn't showing up? You think a lack of novelty justifies lying to my face for 3 months? I never wanted to hurt you. But you did." The words hit like a hammer in the room. Not shouted. Just final. Cold. Precise. She set the smoothie down on the table. Slowly. Carefully. Like it might explode. "I thought it would stop," she said after a long pause. "At first it was just flirting. It felt harmless. Then he kissed me in the break room. And it felt different. Like someone saw me." "Spare me the movie script," I muttered. She looked up. Eyes glinting. "I'm trying to be honest." "No, you're trying to reframe the narrative. You're not sitting here because you wanted to confess. You're sitting here because you got caught. That made her pause. Was it ever going to stop? I asked. She looked away. That's what I thought. Another beat of silence. This one heavier than the last. Then she whispered, I didn't plan it this way. No, I said. You planned every other part. I clicked one more file. A voice memo. Her voice recorded through my Bluetooth watch. I think I love him, she said in the audio. God, I know how that sounds. But I don't feel guilty. I feel free. I didn't need to play the rest. She winced. That's out of context. Stop. I held up a hand. Just stop. She sat there stunned. I'm not doing this because I want you to beg or cry or explain. I'm doing this because I wanted to look you in the eye while I showed you the truth. Not just what you did, but how thoroughly you did it. The time. The effort. The arrogance. She folded her arms over her chest, defensive now. You think you're better than me? Digging into my phone? Planting trackers? No, I said. I think I'm finally done being lied to. And then I stood. Just like that. No more to say. No more files to click. No more half-truths to unpack. I need you out, I said. By the end of the week. She opened her mouth, but nothing came out. Her eyes were wet now, but I didn't care. I'll sleep in the guest room until then, I said. You get the bedroom. And I walked away. No shouting. No plate smashing. No theatrical send-off. Just a man who finally saw everything clearly and was done letting the person who broke him pretend they hadn't. Behind me, the only sound was the quiet whir of the laptop fan. The morning after the confrontation, I didn't feel anger or grief. I felt clarity. Like something poisonous had finally drained from my system. She was still in the bedroom, probably pretending to sleep, while I sat in the kitchen, sipping coffee like a man planning a war he never wanted to fight. I called Danielle, a lawyer I hadn't spoken to in years. We went to college together. She was sharp, ruthless, and had gone through her own betrayal a few years back. When I told her what I had, she didn't gasp or wince. She just said, bring everything. I handed her the files, *TS, GPS logs, bank statements, audio clips. She flipped through them with clinical precision, nodding like a surgeon reading a diagnosis she'd seen 100 times. This is enough, she said. Sit tight. Let her think you've calmed down. That's the best we *P*N right now, her comfort. So I did exactly that. At home, I played it cool. I didn't slam doors. I didn't bark demands. I let her move around the house like nothing was happening while I was pulling every thread of her story apart. I dug up deleted emails, synced her phone backups, even used a tech-savvy friend to get video footage from her office's security system. I watched Lauren and Tyler leave together after hours twice, walking arm in arm like they were on some Hallmark date. Every file I collected wasn't about revenge. It was about truth. About being prepared. Because when this finally blew up, I wanted it to be indisputable. I wanted the world, the people who thought she was so perfect, to see what she really was. The night of her firm's networking gala was perfect. Lauren told me I didn't need to come, said it was a client-facing thing. I nodded, smiled, told her to have fun. Then I put on a gray suit and showed up uninvited. I didn't approach her. I didn't make a scene. I just watched from across the room as she laughed with Tyler by the wine table, straightened his tie, touched his chest like they were already some power couple in the making. I left without a word. At 9 a.m. the next morning, every department head at her firm received an anonymous email. Inside, redacted transcripts, photos, date-stamped *TS. All carefully worded. Nothing defamatory. Just facts. By noon, HR launched an internal probe. By Friday, Tyler was placed on leave. Lauren was told her contract would not be renewed. At home, she was furious. Accused me of sabotage. Said I was unhinged. Her lawyer tried to spin it as emotional neglect. But all her claims dissolved under the weight of what I documented. She settled. Quietly. We split assets. I got the car, my investments, and peace. She got the condo, hollow and echoing with the lies she told in it. A few months later, I saw a photo of her and Tyler again, different motel, different city. The pattern didn't change. Just the scenery. She tried to text me once. Claimed he pressured her. Said she missed what we had. I blocked her. Sold the condo. Moved across the country. Changed my number. Started over under skies that didn't remember her name. She tried to write me out of the story. But I picked up